Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's interesting to hear all of the different perspectives that are being shared tonight. But my perspective, at least I was born here in Flint and grew up here in Flint on many different sides of town. And the one thing that I do know about, at least that I can think back to, and it has influenced my life tremendously, was that when I was in sixth grade, I went to Stevenson School, which was a school over by Shirley that was torn down, and it had my Children's Health Center, the dental in the bottom of the school. And in being in that sixth grade class, I was the only black female in that class, and there were two black males in the class. And by the time the end of the year had come around, I was still the only black female, and there was one black male that was in there also. So therefore, it was interesting because we lived on Avenue B, and if anybody's familiar with Flint, what they did is that they basically gerrymandered the street. If you lived on the west side, you went to Stevenson. If you lived on the east side of Avenue B, then you went to Doyle Ryder. And so most of the children in the neighborhood, that's where they went. And it was difficult because I was not used to being the only black person anywhere, that I was always had my brothers and sisters and my cousins and everybody around me, so that was really different. And so then to go to the school where I'm the only black person in there, and I can remember we put on the school put on the play Little Women, and out of all of the children that were in the sixth grade class, I ended up playing Aunt Marge, Aunt March, or whatever her name was. And it was strange because, and that was kind of groundbreaking, because many parents would have probably just really been upset that, they got me playing the aunt and all these other kids, and so our white children, and here I am, in the midst of it as a kinfolk. And so I found that was very, very interesting. But what it did, it prepared me for life, because I knew that I could not rely on anyone else, that my mother couldn't take me up to that school, my father couldn't take me to that school, my siblings weren't in that classroom, but I had to go, and I had to learn what was being taught there. And I think that in preparation for life, I became the first person in my family to graduate with a college degree. And so that in itself was, I can remember sitting on the floor when over at, now it's the George Beverly Event Center, but back then it was, what was it called? Yes, and I remember sitting there in my cap and gown thinking, number one, I was 40 years old. I never expected that I would go to college and then to come out of college and be able to earn a living, and that was a very, very tremendous way. And what I did with my children is that I would drag my children wherever it was that I was going. Like when we went down to U of M, and I wanted to go there, but I didn't have the money. So I took my husband and my kids, and we were all down there, and the chancellor was talking about education. And I asked him, I said, how do you expect people to go here when there's no monies set aside for people to actually come to this university down here? Well, after that conversation, he invited me to come in and visit him, and I ended up with money so I could go to school for that first year. And so, and then, I was able to make it the rest of the way. But I was terrified because, again, being one of just a few minorities, but everything had been building up to that had placed me in that place where I, from that girl in 6th grade till, I became an adult and was able to take and that's one thing that I try to teach my children that are now adults, 45 and 43, is that we have a responsibility, and my responsibility for you is to treat you and to show you what the world is, and to be caring of whoever it is that you're with, regardless to the color of their skin, the nationality. And so I have children that respect that, and that pleases me as well.
Thank you for that. Would anybody else like to add anything? Yes, sir.
Sitting here listening to you, I know you came in late. I'll just say this, give you a synopsis. I was born here in Flint. I'm on Carter.
Could you speak just a little louder, please?
I said I was born here in Flint. I was born on Carter Street. We moved from Flint to what they call Elba. Elba is between Lapeer and Davidson. I was born, that's the first place I went to school. And there was a bunch of families, but no kids my age. So when I went to school, which is a one-room schoolhouse, which sits on the corner of Davidson, I forgot the name of the street. I think they enshrined that. But I went to school there, and I was the only one there in that class. And I was the only black. And the rest of my classmates were Caucasian. They had a bus that came to take the kids to junior high. I was the only one that got on the bus and rode with the bus to that school in the wintertime. Because our house burned down and we moved back to Flint. And I went to a couple of different schools here. But the first time I ever went south was in 1955. I got an offer to go to Arkansas A&M because that's where my father graduated from. And he always told us there were 4 boys and 1 girl. He said, I don't care what you do, you are going to go to college. He said, the oldest one will go, when he gets out and starts working, he'll help pay for you on down the line. Well, when I got that offer to go to Arkansas, which was A&M, which was the first time I'd ever been south, my father told me, he says, you too stubborn to live down here in this place, so you can't go. So I came here and I went to Mott. And there I got a scholarship to go to Colorado State U. And I finished there. I came back here. And all that time, I mean, you have seen, and probably some of you heard about some of the discrimination that you had, but I've never, except for when I went to work, discovered it. And it was never blatant. I remember when we were in child, I went to the store, and my cousin was with me. And I walked up to the counter to pay for something. And the white woman came in to pay for her stuff. And I looked at her and I said, no, you're not going in front of me. And they waited on me. And my cousin, she didn't say a word, but she smiled and went back because nothing was said. Nothing was done at that time when I left. I'm just saying that to say that, you know, though there are those of you who have not been fortunate enough to get through some of that. I believe that part of it is because my mother prayed for me. She had to, because I've been in situations and done things that I know. I have seen other people who got in trouble for doing that. And I just want to interject that. And I remember all of the places because when I grew up on Lee Street. 2 houses from the corner of North Street. And that was at a time when if you were black, you didn't go on the west side of Saginaw Street.
Yeah.
You had to stay on the east side. But, you know,
I have a question.
yeah.
You graduated from Colorado State.
Yes, I did.
Why did you come back to Flint?
Because at the time that I came back, Flint had the community schools. This is where it started, the community schools. During the summer, the kids had something to do every day, all through the year. I got my first job here, working. And I worked with the school system. I worked for, I guess, my foundation. But I said to myself, I said, if I ever get married and have kids, I said, there is no place that I have ever been where the children have something to do. You always have some place for them to go, something for them to do. I know all of the top musicians have been through here. And like some of you, I played for the Masonic Band. I started with the one on St. John Street, but my cousin, one of my friends, got me to play with the one on the south side. We went to Ottawa, which was beautiful. We also went to Canada and played on the holidays. So hey, this was the place that I thought, hey, if you want something to do, if you got something that you want to do, it's safe, and you have plenty to do if you got kids or just for yourself. Always something to do.
I like to say something about you. That's why you came back. I'm glad you came. Because when you came back is when he and I got together. But at that time, Flint was a booming city. It had a lot to offer young people. And he said he came back because he liked the seasons. If in Colorado, you basically have purely one season. He liked the season here. So that was one reason why he came back. And I am blessed that he did, because if he had came back, he and I would not have been together. So, and I grew up here in Flint, but I was one of those who lived on the south side. So, yeah, back then the south side and the north side was rivals when I came along. And some of the things you talk about, I did not suffer too much discrimination when I came along. That's me. When I grew up here in Flint. But when I came along, Flint was a booming city. It had a lot to offer. Sure, there was places you shouldn't go, but there was a lot going on in the black community at the time that I came along.
What is your definition of South Side? Like what street?
What was South Side?
Well, anytime, if you know where downtown is, okay, let's say Water Street. If you lived south of Water Street, you were on the south side. If you live north of it, you're on the north side.
And I like to say a lot of the south side has been destroyed because of the expressway. Because with the expressway, there used to be beautiful homes there, 9th Street, 8th Street. And black people had business in that area. That's all gone when the expressway came through. That tore all of that. And that's when I think that Flint started falling apart because we had a great neighborhood the time I came along. And when I say it, I'm talking about as a young child. I went to school here. I went to choir school with Year Central. It had a lot to offer at that time, even to the black folks, as far as my life was concerned.
You remember the Jixie? Do you remember the Jixie?
The Jixie. I don't remember Jixie.
It was, I was trying to figure out exactly where it was because I was one of you that had a car. And my mother had some years, I could fit about 12 people in. And we would go to the Jixie. But I don't remember how I got there. I want to think it was on 8th Street. It was a restaurant. It was like a little strip deal, and they sold chicken and fish.
You know, the Golden Loop is still open there.
Yeah, yes it is. Yes it is.
But I was north side, but my brother liked to date girls on the south side. And so it was this big rivalry kind of thing that went on. And it was really kind of amazing when you stop to think about it, but we could walk from Avenue B all the way over through downtown, over to 12th Street. You know, and we would just walk, and it's dark outside and everything, and we walk through downtown, and you know, we're looking at windows and just having a good time. But Flint was the, you know, because of General Motors. General Motors was both a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
My girlfriend, who is now deceased, grew up on the south side. As a matter of fact, her mother was one of the founding members of Christ the King Catholic Church. And her fondest memory was when the circus came to town. Her father would walk them over to what is now the pier and the railroad tracks, somewhat near Christ the King Church. And that's where the circus train would unload. And the performers and the animals would then parade to the old IMA auditorium.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming. This has been very, very informative. I hope that you learned something from the presentation and your input. On your table, there are some evaluations. Please evaluate. This Tadaji Talks will be going on for a few more months. On the last table, there are cards that Donna is holding up that will show you what is going on from here henceforth. And we want to make sure that you return, bring someone with you. Education is the best way for us to get out of where we're at.